Alright guys, welcome back. Saw an interesting question today on the Autodesk Maya forum. Xavier is asking about his rigid body dynamics. I will just paraphrase his question instead of reading through it, but he's basically trying to create a gumball machine where the sphere is colliding with the container. And he's following the tutorial on the YouTube, which this person made. However, I noticed the video is quite old. It's from 2015. Now Maya has changed a bit since then. With what he's using with this feature is actually has become a legacy feature that I don't think a lot of people use anymore. But however, it can still work, which is, probably why Maya kind of left it there. If you want to use it in the pinch, you can use it and kind of get through a shot or two. So he uploaded a scene and I downloaded it. So let's just take a look. So this is this obvious scene, and I kind of just hide the other objects and make it a little bit lighter because it's quite heavy. And I'm just going to play it, and you will see that the sphere is not quite colliding with the container. So I think the result is supposed to be like collecting in this bottom area, but instead it just kind of falls through, which you will see shortly. Right, there you go. And so the first thing I noticed is that the container is only single-sided. It's not enclosed. What I meant by enclosed is something like a sphere where you don't see the backside of it, or a cube. And generally, a lot of time, what we do with especially like dynamic, I think FX guy does this too, is instead of creating a plane for collision, it's you create a box and then you kind of extrude out the sides, and then you have a thickness, and with the thickness, it generally gets better results. And we can take a look at it real quick. I will just turn on the polygon face normal. As you can see, these faces have their normal point outwards, but if I look inside, this is actually the back side. And yeah, so I think for dynamics and collision stuff like that, they probably do need a normal to kind of point against each other for them to calculate and collide. And so that's kind of the first thing I noticed, and I believe that should solve our problem. So what I did was I create a new scene here, and I basically extrude the container inwards. So now, if we take a look of the normals, you have the normal point outwards, you have point upwards, and you have point like these guys like going this direction. So I don't see the backside of this object anymore. It's encompassed, right? And so yeah, and then what we can do is hit play. And just go back real quick. This is what I was talking about, legacy rigid bodies. Maya just kind of kept it here. I believe most people kind of move on to bullet already, or simply using Houdini for rigid body dynamics. Simple, just because it's probably better software and a lot faster these days. But yeah, in this thing, I didn't change anything. I just exported the mesh. I extruded, delete the history, and create a passive collider. Maybe we can move down a bit while still simulating. Hopefully it doesn't crash Maya, because it is quite heavy. So I think on a frame 39 or 40, it gets really slow because it's actually colliding. It's kind of a good sign to know, your simulation is working, the collision is working because it's taking longer time. So yeah, there you go. I think I will do one more frame and then I'll just pause it. Okay. So yeah, if let's take a look. See these guys? They kind of all collect on the bottom, right? And then so if we kind of let it run, maybe, oh, I don't know, 5 minutes or so, we'll probably get halfway through. There is a lot of sphere here. And let's go on to maybe take a look at a simple example. So I just created a scene as what I was saying. I have the normal point upwards, I have these normal point downwards, made these active rigid body, and then these passive. And so yeah, if I play, this is the result you're gonna get. And it's just like that, like sometimes it's just a simple thing. If you just have to remember it, always kind of make sure have the rigid and an active, a passive and active rigid bodies, their normal point against each other. That's probably one of your safer bits. Now, if you're just following the tutorial and then you want to learn about legacy rigid body dynamic, you can stop the video here. I think that should solve the issue. Another solution that you can do is bullet, and I think that's going to be probably the ideal, like the upgrade version of the legacy rigid body dynamic. Bullet has been kind of everywhere. It's also in Houdini as well. It's just a lot faster. Now, the setup could be kind of tricky, a little bit sensitive. So I already did all the setup. So you will have to kind of figure it out on your own. But just want to show you, this is the same setup. Extrude the mesh and then make these guys active rigid body. And then this will be passive. And then, and have a collide. So it seems like the speeds are pretty good. Yeah, so remember when we are on frame 40, we would slow down a lot. In this case, it would just kind of simulate through about the same time before the collision happens. So I'm just going to pause here. But a bullet probably is something that you want to check it out if you're learning about rigid body dynamics, and you can bring that knowledge if you say switch software like Houdini. But yeah, I think that will do it. Hopefully that helps you, and yeah, and good luck.